Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, and other honored guests. And I have one from the Canadian Air Force over here at the side. I'd like to welcome you to our service. I'm Don Courtney, Chairman of the Manatee County Veterans Council. If you would please rise for the placing of the battlefield cross, the national anthem, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Present the colors. Our invocation will be our chaplain, Carol Sagal.
Let us pray together. Heavenly Father, help us to be aware that at this very moment there are American soldiers that are risking their lives so that we may have this freedom on this lovely Memorial Day. Please keep all our servicemen, active duty, veterans, and disabled veterans. Watch over all of the forces of America. They are serving the United States Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Merchant Marine, and Coast Guard. Keep them all in our hearts and prayers today and always. May God bless them all.
Our national anthem will be sung by Mr. Christopher Culpepper.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dismiss the colors. Please be seated. Hey, Mr. Washington wasn't able to be here today, so we will not have the reading of the proclamation. We will do the laying of the wreaths by the Braden River JROTC. When I announce the service, if you serve with them, please stand if you're able. United States Army. United States Marine Corps. United States Navy. United States Air Force. United States Coast Guard. United States Merchant Marine. The Military Officers Association of America. The Military Order of World Wars. Daughters of the American Revolution. Our guest speaker today is Command Sergeant Major Steve Valley. Command Sergeant Major Steve Valley is a 30-year military member, a proud veteran of Operation Iraq Freedom, for which he earned a Bronze Star Medal and was awarded the Combat Action Badge. He's qualified in several military occupational specialties, including 11B Infantry, 11C Indirect Fire Infantryman, 13E Field Artillery Fire Direction Specialist, and 46Z Public Affairs. He most recently served as an Army Reserve Command Sergeant Major at the 205th Press Camp Headquarters in San Antonio, Texas. Previously served as a Deputy Sergeant Major of the Army Public Affairs at the Army Office of the Chief of Public Affairs at the Pentagon. The First Sergeant for the 204th Mobile Public Affairs Detachment in Orlando, Florida, the Public Affairs NCO for the 53rd Infantry Brigade in Tampa, Florida, and numerous positions with the Massachusetts Army National Guard. Valley also served at U.S. Forces in Japan, was named the Media Chief for the U.S. military during Operation Tomishi following the Japanese earthquake and tsunami, April 2011, for which he was awarded the Joint Humanitarian Service Medal. Valley graduated from North Adams State College in 1988 with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in English Communication. He earned a Master's of Science degree in Administrative Studies from Boston College in 1999. In 2009, graduated from the U.S. Army Sergeant Major's Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas. Steve has been honored as an All-American VFW Post Commander. He's on the Board of Directors for Junior Leadership of Manatee and a member of the AUSA and the American Legion, a member of the Department of Defense's Employee Support of the Guard and Reserve in Florida, a sustaining member of the USO and the Wounded Warrior Project. Steve and his wife Lauren have been married 25 years, parents of 2 sons. Alex is a senior at the University of North Florida and will be commissioned as the Army Second Lieutenant in December through the UNF Army ROTC program, while Sam is finishing up his plebe year at the United States Naval Academy. Steve is the Director of Communications, Family and Community Engagement for the School District of Manatee County. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Steve Valley.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the Manatee County Veterans Council, Don Courtney, for inviting me here today. Good morning to all the commissioners, school board members, and most importantly, veterans and their families. I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak to you this morning on such an important day for our country, and most especially, the men and women that make up the greatest military in the world. Let me start off with a list of names, and thereafter, the significance of these brave warriors. Army Private Joseph William Guyton, World War I. Army Air Corps Captain Robert Moffett Losey, World War II. Task Force Smith, made up of 406 men of the 1st Battalion, 21st Infantry Regiment, as well as 134 men of A Battery, 52nd Field Artillery Battalion, Korean War. Air Force Technical Sergeant Richard B. Fitzgibbon, Jr., Vietnam War. Navy Lieutenant Commander Scott Spiker, Gulf War. Army Sergeant First Class Nathan Ross Chapman, Operation Enduring Freedom. And Marine Lance Corporal Jose Gutierrez, Operation Iraqi Freedom. For those in attendance who didn't know, those names are of the men of the first American military members that were killed by enemy combatants in every war from World War I all the way through Operation Iraqi Freedom. More than 1 million American service members have perished in the wars and conflicts this nation has fought since the Patriots in Boston took up arms in 1775 to fight for independence. Each person who died during those conflicts was a loved one cherished by family and friends. Each was a loss to the community and the nation. Each has a personal story. Each of these persons is just so much more than a number or a name. I didn't come here today to give you a history of Memorial Day. You know it already. I don't need to. This audience knows the true meaning of Memorial Day. We know that today is more than just a day off from work, a chance to invite friends to a barbecue, or spend the day at the beach. Today is a day to take a break and think about those who've sacrificed their life while wearing the uniform of the U.S. Army, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, or the Merchant Marines. It's time to look back at all the men and women that served because freedom and democracy was that important to them. Some volunteered, some were drafted, but we served because our country came calling, and that was good enough reason. Sacrifice is nothing or meaningless without remembrance. America's collective consciousness demands that all citizens recall and be aware of the deaths of their fellow countrymen during wartime. By honoring the nation's war dead, we preserve their memory and thus the service and sacrifice in the memories of future generations. We come from all walks of life and regions of the country, but we all have one thing in common: love of and loyalty to our country. This bond creates ties between us in times of peace and, of course, during times of war, allowing a diverse lot of Americans to achieve monumental accomplishments. Although we have thankfully seen great reductions in the loss of life at the end of two wars, our service members still regularly accept risks that few other Americans face. Whether it's deployments to trouble spots around the globe, our humanitarian assistance and disaster response missions, or intense training and exercises in which they must regularly participate, those in uniform continue to raise their right hand to take the oath of service. Just a little over a week ago, 6 service members gave their lives in service to others in distress in Nepal. Being a war veteran, I can tell you that we notice each other pretty easily. I can usually spot a war veteran because, like me, we're the ones at a public event reviewing the crowd to find the people that don't take their hats off when the national anthem is played. We're the ones whose eyes also get a little misty while listening to that same national anthem. We're the ones that know that the freedom we fought for means so much more than that national anthem and saluting the flag. But we're also the ones that put our lives on the line to defend that flag, because it represents freedom and democracy, and they're worth fighting for. Democracy isn't perfect. Nothing ever is. It isn't easy, and it's usually quite messy. But the men and women of the United States military know it's worth fighting for, and that means putting our lives on the line to pursue, defend, and protect it. It takes hard work, sweat, and more often than not, the blood of American military members to win democracy and freedom. The American soldier knows that freedom and democracy are won through hard fights, and that we'll lose some of our brothers and sisters in uniform in those fights. But we believe freedom and democracy are worth every bit of effort we put forth. About 10 years ago, fellow retired Army Sergeant Major Bill Jackson was commenting on the camaraderie of the military and asked us, what other organization is there in the world where the guy next to you is willing to die for you? We truly are common people doing truly uncommon things. Unlike past periods in history, many Americans don't have relatives or even neighbors who serve now who have ever served in the military. Many will never feel the honor or the pride of wearing an American military uniform. I remember the first time I wore a uniform way back in 1985 when I reported for basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. I didn't feel the pride of wearing the Army uniform back then, mainly because I was contemplating turning around and running right back to Massachusetts instead of facing a nasty drill sergeant for 16 weeks. But having served for 30 years, I can tell you firsthand about the pride I feel every time I wear the uniform of the U.S. Army. It's hard to describe unless you've done it. After I submitted my retirement packet a few months ago, my wife Lauren asked me if I missed the Army. I told her I don't miss the bureaucracy of the Army, but I miss the soldiers, my soldiers. I sometimes get a little nostalgic about my career, but mostly I think about the people I've served with. From then PFC Christopher Weidman, who I battled with daily during basic training in infantry school in 1985, to my good friend Jordan St. John, who served with the Marines in Vietnam, got out of the military, but then rejoined the Massachusetts Army National Guard to finish out his 20 years because he felt he needed to continue his service to the country. To my roommate in Baghdad, Major Jay Antonelli. Through our friendship, we helped each other through one of the toughest stretches of war during 2004 in Baghdad. To my unit filled with young soldiers during my final assignment as a battalion command sergeant major at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. Those are my brothers and sisters that made it home from war or haven't deployed yet during their careers. I'd also like to talk to you about a good friend that didn't come home. I knew Megan McClung in Baghdad. Megan had graduated from the Naval Academy, but left the Marines and deployed to Iraq as a defense contractor. We spent a full year working together, and I considered her a close friend by the time I left Baghdad in February 2005. I hadn't thought about Megan for a while until I received a series of calls from Jay Antonelli in December 2006. I couldn't decipher any words in his message, except for Megan's gone. She's gone. What I learned in the following days is that Megan re-enlisted in the Marines and volunteered to deploy to Iraq, this time as a Marine Public Affairs officer, where she was stationed in the hotbed of action in the Anbar province in Ramadi. Megan was the first female U.S. Marine Corps officer killed in combat during the Iraq War. Major McClung was serving as a public affairs officer in Ramadi when she was killed after the Humvee she was riding in was hit by an IED. She's still the highest-ranking female military officer to be killed in Iraq. Common people doing uncommon things. It seems today the world, the nation as a whole, has become disengaged from its military, with only 3% of the people living in the United States even eligible to serve and just 1% actually serving. It's easy to see why many citizens among us can take for granted the freedoms all Americans enjoy. Those freedoms were paid for with the lives of others few of us actually knew. That's why they are collectively remembered on one special day, today, Memorial Day. In my opinion, we're at a point now where Americans expect the government to support their existence, but not vice versa. How can this nation survive if we're always first in line to receive government assistance, but always hiding when it's time to give something back? That's why I think America needs a national program that encourages every 18-year-old to perform at least 2 years of paid national service before they embark on college or a professional career. You like that? All right. I'm not talking about serving in the military because honestly, not a lot of them would survive one day in my beloved Army. But there are so many other ways to serve the nation. They could volunteer in the schools, homeless shelters, food banks, local governments. The opportunities are endless, but they all have one goal: to give back to our nation that has given us so much. For we are nothing without freedom and democracy that the United States has given every one of us. Consider this a repayment of a national debt that can only be truly repaid by individual Americans. By giving back, we build a stronger community and a nation that will persevere long after all of us are gone. Switching gears a little bit, we're reminded every day about our enemies far away and unfortunately close to home. But I've seen America's biggest enemy, and it's not Iran, ISIS, or the Taliban. Our biggest enemy today is ourselves. Today we have the smallest army we've had in 50 years. As a senior Army leader, I've seen firsthand the cuts in personnel, resources, and training opportunities that we're currently dealing with. And unless sequestration is killed, it will gut the entire military, and faster than you could ever believe. Please contact our congressional delegation and tell them to put an end to sequestration. Our country's livelihood is at stake. When I came home from war, I received many thanks and congratulations from people that I knew and quite a lot of folks that I didn't know. It seems that everyone says they support the military, but supporting our warriors means more than putting a yellow ribbon magnet on the back of your car or hanging a flag from your home. We as a nation need to do so much more to support our returning war veterans. I'll tell you, I brought a couple of young Marines to Baghdad to do a family reunion live on a Fox News show just after we defeated Al-Qaeda in Fallujah. These two young men were about 20 years old and fought in the original march to Baghdad in 2003 and were on the front lines of the largest door-to-door battle since Vietnam in Fallujah in November 2004. They seemed fine during our meeting, but I want to see them in 10, 20, or even 30 years from now and see how they're dealing with the atrocities of war they witnessed not once, but twice in a short period of time. We need to ensure that our returning veterans continue to receive the health care and other life-sustaining support they've earned. No excuses, just make it happen. Most importantly, we need to provide veterans with what they need today: the respect, the commitment, the thanks from a nation that has called upon them to do its most difficult work, to protect and defend the freedom that we all enjoy. In closing, let me tell you about today's veterans. We don't want your pity. We don't want your handouts. We don't want to be looked as outcasts. We're smart, the most educated military in the world, and we're experienced through 14 years of war. We're loyal, committed, relentless, professional, tough, and strong, but caring and not afraid to give another soldier a hug if that's what's needed. We're warriors and leaders through and through. Every one of us has answered the call to serve our nation. We've made life and death decisions in a split second. We've dealt with the greatest people in the world and unfortunately the worst people in the world. We're not all broken physically or mentally. We don't all suffer from PTSD. We're what's so right in this country. Some of us serve on Congress or as corporate leaders. We serve in high-tech firms, our local schools, and we're also in Walmart. We're in all communities. And right now, we need our nation's leaders, citizens, and employers to recognize we get the job done and done right. There's only one way to lead, and we lead from the front because no one can hear you from behind. We're proud and we're strong, and failure's not in our vocabulary. We're American war veterans. Thank you so much for letting me address you this morning. God bless the United States of America and all the men and women in uniform that have served and continue to serve it so well. Thanks, guys.
Please rise for the benediction and final honors. Now, during the final honors, there will be gunfire, so if you have a pet or a small child, please be aware.
A tribute by Charles H. Hanford. Our military lads have gone away, gone on a military quest, quick and ready to obey their country's grand bequest. Steady beats their loyal hearts beneath their military blues. In the midst of tears that start, love shines forever through.
I would like to make a couple other announcements. If you look at the back of the program, we have some, as we like to call, sponsors, all the veterans. METV here, Mr. Clapsaddle, he's brought out his crew early this morning. I know he was down at the Sarasota National Cemetery last night doing a program. I'd like to thank him and his people for being here. Manatee Memorial Hospital always furnishes the water. We have the Detachment 588 Marine Corps League today doing a great job, as well as our bugler from Korean War Veterans Detachment 199. Over to my left, you'll see in the parking lot the blood mobile. Please, if you can donate, any blood donated stays here in Manatee County. If they ship it out, it goes to a veteran somewhere, not just willy-nilly. And the Marine Corps League is going to have a barbecue this afternoon at their bunker over off of 26th Street. And thank you all very much for taking time out of your holiday to be here today. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'd like to ask you what Memorial Day means to you personally.
It's a special occasion to be sure that we remember the folks that gave up their lives for our freedoms.
Well, that's a noble cause.
And I just reiterate that every year, and I participate with all of the activities that surround this activity. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Brad Smith. I'm assisting with the METV. I'd like to ask you a question, General, of what is your personal feeling of Memorial Day? What does it mean to you personally?
Memorial Day provides us the opportunity to recognize all of those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, merchant mariners, Marines, and the civilians who have given their lives in the defense of this great nation.
That's very true. And this, by identification, is General Rich Blunt.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much, General.
Right. Thanks very much.
Have a good day.
Have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you. Good morning. What's your name, sir? Frank, nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you as well. Good morning. I'd just like to ask, what does Memorial Day mean to you personally?
It means that we lost a lot of good people in different wars, and it's very emotional for me.
Well, thank you very much. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Good, thank you.
Memorial Day means to me that I can be out here today and be here to honor our veterans or really do anything I want. These people, the soldiers of our country, have given the supreme sacrifice, their lives, right here in front of this wall. It's a great honor to be here, and I really think that we all should be here. We should all come here and reflect once in a while. These men and women gave their lives for us to be able to do what we do every day.
Memorial Day is a once-a-year day where all Americans can get together to thank those men and women who gave their lives so that we can continue to live in freedom. Freedom is not free. Well, I think I'm kind of greedy, because what I would say is I wish there were more. I wish of all of the hundreds of thousands of people who live in Manatee County, I wish they could all come out for a Memorial Day service, because their freedom today is only there because of these men and women who died for them.
It just gives me a day to reflect on my years of service and the people I served with that never made it back, and the people that served and never made it back over the past 100, 200 years. You know, like I said, we first took up arms in 1775, and we continue to serve today for the nation. And it's just one day of the whole year that we can all as a nation, not only those who serve, but everybody in this country, can thank those people who gave the ultimate sacrifice for freedom and democracy. Take a minute and thank the millions of men and women that have served our country, and realized that if not for them, we could still be speaking British with let me put that again. Take a minute and thank the millions of men and women who've served our country in the military, and realize that without them, we could still be speaking with a British accent, or we could be ruled by the Fuhrer, Hitler himself, after World War II. And thank them for the hard work, the sweat, and unfortunately the blood that they've given to make sure freedom and democracy persevere.
Well, Charles, Memorial Day to me, I had all of my family has served in the military in one branch or another over the years, all the way from the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Gulf Wars, etc. So it's a time to reflect on those people who served in the family, and all my friends who served in the military. I'm a retired career naval officer, U.S. Navy, and I lost a great number of friends in Vietnam, personal friends. Fortunately, in the family, we only lost one person killed in Germany. So it's a day to remember them, and a day to remember what is important in our lives as Americans and why we have the life that we have today. That one thing would be to remember all of those who have gone before us and who are serving now, who are putting their lives on the line just for the day, for the simple daily lives that we have in this country, the freedoms that we have to come and go, to do as we wish, to educate as we will. Those are the things that are important. We don't think about them very often, but the sacrifice of those who have served and have given their lives are why we are able to do those things in this country. That's the thing I would hope that everybody would realize, and I'm sure many do.